Oops, I think I have to change that. I wonder if I can change. I'm recording to the cloud, and I know they're going to boot me off because I've overextended my cloud period, which I didn't mean to. So hello, everybody. We are just doing a Laban Bartenieff space movement, inner outer space, with a little bit of continuum movement to juice us up, to hydrate, to mobilize, and to feel good, and to move together, to move in community. And that was like one of Laban's things. A huge thing for him was moving in community. So actually, let's start. We can start seated or standing, whatever feels good to you, but I'm going to start seated, and I'm just going to invite us to breathe and feel our wingspan. So if you think of an animal, whenever they start to move, they usually do a pretty big stretch. If you think of like how animals, cats and dogs get that stretch into their bodies, maybe just letting your heart, lungs, and chest open, a little arch in your spine, and inviting your fingertips and your skin to feel the space around your body. So skin, fingers, arms, feeling the space around your body. And so there were a few sessions of the embodiment conference that talked about this heart to fingertips relationship. I know that Gil Hedley talks about it, that our heart is everywhere in our whole body because our blood is moving through there. And Bibiana Badness also talked about like our expression of ourselves is coming through our whole body into our hands. So that's another great session. Yeah, look at you, Leslie. So feel free to just find a little bit of expression in the hands. It could be very small, or it could be really big. Letting yourself move your body in any way, your hands especially. I'm pinning myself, but that doesn't mean that you have to stick on the pin. You can do the whole gallery, I think. I'm actually pinning myself so that it doesn't record other people. So waking up these little digits, which also I like to think of as the little dragons. And I'm going to take the little dragons on a run through the forest. So the dragons are going to go running through the forest, just waking up my cranium, my skin of my head, my hair. And also I'm going to unpin myself because it's too weird to just see myself. I want to see all you guys. It's also, what am I saying? Feel both sides of the touch, right? So you can feel your fingers touching your head, and you can feel your head being touched by your fingers. So being aware of that doubleness of that, the touch, that it is happening in two ways at the same time, in two parts of your body. And you can allow that to move so that it's not, there we go. So that it's not just on your head. You can sort of wake up your face, maybe your shoulders, maybe coming into your heart or your back, anything that feels good to you, anything that feels nourishing to you. So allowing yourself to have maybe a little touch bath. Most of us are starved for touch, and feeling yourself be feeled, feeling yourself be touched. Feeling yourself, feeling your skin, feeling your hands, feeling the two sides of that relationship, and just letting that wash down. So we're bringing our awareness into our bodies, bringing our awareness into our wholeness in whatever way feels good. So always feel free to take whatever I'm offering and let it be what you need. So I'm going to go all the way down, and my little bottom hands, the hands that are on the bottom of my body, my feet. I'm thinking of your hands, your feet like hands, and your hands like feet. So letting yourself wake up. There's an exercise, actually, I think it's an Irene Dowd exercise called feet like hands. And then I know for like balancing in handstands, you want to think of your hands like feet. So letting that relationship of hands and feet wake up, these distal parts of our body, these edges of our body, sort of just giving them some, hello, body, it's nice to see you. And letting that, evening yourself out for another minute or two, just giving yourself whatever, wherever, some touch. Ooh, some self-acceptance. Let's accept ourselves. Even if we mess things up, even if we make a disaster of things, that's okay. I messed it up. I didn't say the perfect thing for all these people. I just was trying to be myself. So letting that kind of come in, and that comes into my heart and lungs, and maybe Mia, your heart and lungs can respond to that as well. The heartbroken. Oh, we're here together with our hearts. So let's bring it into just a little bit quieter. We're going to get big and spatial in a minute, but let's start a little bit more micro. And I'm just going to invite you to imagine that your spine and your spinal cord is actually a river. And it's a meandering river. And as you're inviting this fluidity into your spine, you're going to just invite micro movement into your body. And you could do this laying down on your back also, which might feel really good. So feel free to lay down or to stand up or even to go onto all fours in the quadruped and just explore. You can see me moving a lot. So, or you can see it. So it's a lot. So micro movement might be so small that you barely see it. But you're inviting the idea of water into your spine, into your torso, and allowing it to differentiate in any way that it feels like how it can bubble up or kind of wave through your body. And giving it a sense of free flow. Like if you have one drop of water and you drop it into the rest of the water, there's suddenly no difference between that drop and the rest of the water. And there's no way to sort of isolate that drop. So feeling that sensation of all of this connectedness. And again, it totally can do it on your back. You can do it on your butt or on all fours or even standing. Inviting freedom, and I want to say micro movement because it's not huge movement, but really I'm moving kind of huge. It's all relative. So you might want to, if you're having a hard time allowing it to arise, then maybe give it a task, like try making a figure 8 with your rib cage or your lungs, or draw the alphabet with your belly button. Something that gives you access into moving in a way that is maybe not your normal pattern, but finding some interior, like I want to say ringing and releasing, some squishing up and then unsquishing. So your interior sponge is getting a chance to do this. Internal spirals, dancing and mobilizing. So then maybe just a couple more minutes of that. And if you want to try it in a different alignment, you could come to all fours or standing. And I'm just going to show you what it might look like in all fours. So just letting my body move in ways that are not my normal pattern. So I can send ripples and waves. And by offering this new patterning, I'm giving space to my brain. I'm giving space to my behavior to invite different possibilities of how I might exist in the world, and broadening my palette of who I am. And just hydrating that deep center tissue and bone. So even bone is hydrated. So thinking of that, thinking of your bone as a very, very slow moving river, but a river nonetheless. So how's everybody doing out there in TV land? Are we ready to get bigger? Thumbs up? Yeah? All right. If you're not, you can also just participate by watching and sitting, really do what feels right to you. So we're going to move into Laban's scales of movement. And these scales, just a little quick history. Laban was born in either 1874 or 1879, I think 1879. Son of an army brat, of a general in the Austro-Hungarian Empire. So he saw a lot of military pageantry, a lot of military parades, and a lot of country dance. And I feel like he also saw martial arts and different things. I feel like he traveled a little bit. So he developed these patterns of movement by looking at what movement existed. So he created these scales of movement, like you would play a scale on a piano. So we're going to do the most basic stuff first. And what I really like about this is it always balances out both sides of your body evenly. Like if you're going to do the right, you're going to do the left. And also we work with opening things and crossing things. We work with up and down. We work with backwards and forwards. So it is using the 3 dimensions. Cheers. Keep drinking water if you have it. So I'm going to start standing up, adjusting my camera. And I think that you guys are going to see the If I say right, it's actually my left. So does this look like, does this mirror your right side? Am I mirroring your right?
That's my right side.
Okay, so this is actually my left, just so you know, so I may get confused, but let's start with your right. And you're just gonna reach high and then low. So you're just finding the vertical with the right side of the body, up and down. So this is a vertical dimension. It's up and down. It's got two directions, up and down, and one spatial pull. The spatial pull is vertical. So we're in vertical, we can go up, we can go down. Let's shift that to the left side of our body, reaching high and low. And so this place is called place high on top and place low on the bottom. And we could also draw symbols for these places, which sometimes that's helpful for people. Last one. Let's go back to the right side and we're gonna go to the horizontal dimension. So we're gonna cross the arm and leg. The other arm is working as a counter tension. Then we're gonna open wide. So we're going side across and side open. This is the horizontal dimension. It has one spatial pull, horizontal, in two directions, side across and side open, or it could just be side side. But you can feel that this is a very different position than this. And anytime we cross our body like that, we are working contralateral patterns. So when we cross, it does something a little extra for our nervous system. Let's change it to the other side. So you're gonna work with your left arm and leg cross over and open wide. Left arm and leg cross and open. And we wanna try to keep our hip bones, so the two fronts of our ASIS, the two front knobs of our hip bones pointing forward so that they're kind of delineating where front is for us. Cross and open. So if I cross like this and I've turned my hips, then my front is now there. So we're trying to keep it forward. I always say headlights facing front and open. Good. So we have our vertical up, down, our horizontal side, side. Then the third dimension is sagittal, like Sagittarius. Think of it like that. Boom, forward, backward. So we're gonna go with our right hand and we're just gonna reach back to a point straight behind us and then forward to a point right in front of us. Reaching back and forward. So this again has one spatial pull, which is sagittal, and two directions, which are forward and backward. And then we're going to change it to the other side, taking it back and forward, moving through space. So we have this big weight shift into the back space and into the front space. Backwards, and this can be very much about, I'm gonna do it, I'm moving forward, or I'm gonna hold back, I'm not gonna do it. This can be very much about making decisions in action. Backwards and forwards. Last one. Good, now we're gonna put the whole thing together. And I'm gonna see if I have some notes that actually have a picture of what we're moving within. Yes, I do, how exciting. All right, so if we put a crystalline form, a platonic solid around the outside of this, and we were moving within the points of that crystalline form, does anyone want to guess what that is, or does anyone know what that is? Yeah, don't go tell us, Dawn.
I think it might be the tetrahedron.
It's not the tetrahedron, but close. So the if we go through our platonic solids, the tetrahedron is the most stable one. It's like the pyramid, right? Do you know what it is, Bonnie?
Icosahedron.
It's not the icosahedron either.
It's not that either.
This is the icosahedron, right? This is an icosahedron. And the tetrahedron is like the little triangle. Anyone else want to guess? Since we're going through the platonic solids, might as well try a few more.
Hexagonal space.
What's that?
Hexagonal.
Well, it's not quite hexagonal. I think hexagons are not platonic solids. So there's 5 platonic solids. There's the tetrahedron, the octahedron, the cube, the dodecahedron, and the icosahedron.
Is it a cube?
It's not the cube. I love you guys. So the cube, octahedron, right? It's an octahedron. So here is a picture of a person inside an octahedron.
It's a diamond shape.
Basically, a diamond shape with a front and a back. If I had been a little more prepared, I would have my dice, because I have Dungeons and Dragons dice that should show what these all are. So an octahedron is like that diamond. So let's move inside the octahedron, and we'll put the whole scale together. So we'll start it on our right. So we're gonna have straight up. Here's our vertical, straight up and straight down. Then we're gonna cross over. Then we're gonna open wide. That's our horizontal, that's our side, and backwards and forwards. So that's our sagittal. Same thing, let's do the right a few times. Place high, place low. Cross it over, open it wide. Take it backwards and forwards. Yeah, again, high and low, vertical, crossing over side to side, horizontal, backwards to forwards, sagittal. I'm just going to mute some of you because we're feeding back a little bit, but feel free to unmute.
I have a question.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Does it matter when you're going forward and back if it's the opposite foot or the same foot?
It's the same foot.
Okay.
Yeah, because the other foot is basically planted, and you are going to be letting the planted foot is what you're kind of pivoting off of for everything. So one side of your, so in Laban, we would talk about mobility and stability. The stability is in the planted foot, and the mobility is the one that's going all over, which is that side of the body. Yeah, so I'm muting you all. Feel free to unmute anytime. And hello, Abby, nice to see you. Got one more. Yes, jazz hands. Okay, so let's do it one more time on the right. So we have place high and place low. Side across and side open. Take it backwards and forwards. Yeah, and then we'll skip to the other side. So it should be your left, high and low, finding the vertical, crossing it over, cross and open, horizontal, backwards, stepping backwards and forwards. And I'll move this down so you can see my legs just a little bit more. You're gonna miss my hands a little bit, but high and low, crossing over, opening wide, big weight shift, come into center, take it backwards and forwards. Excellent. Two more times on the left. Place high, place low, cross it over, open it wide, side, side, side across it, take it backwards and forwards. Good, and one more time, last one. Place high, place low, vertical dimension, side across, side open, horizontal dimension, backwards and forwards, sagittal dimension. So coming in, so I have a little story to tell you about that. So space, this is one part of the sort of 4-part structure of Laban analysis. Space is one part, this geometric space. Effort, which is it der Antrieb, the type of work, it's a German word, but it's not quite the same as an English effort. So it's not how hard you work, it's the sort of flavor of the work, like the spices behind the work or the movement. And then there's also body, the body level, what part is moving, and Bartenieff Fundamentals are within that. How are we moving? How are we shifting our weights? How are we rotating? How's our head tail connected? All that is part of body. And then in the American version of Laban movement analysis, we have shape. And shape is like, how do we relate to the world around us? Like, do I kind of spoke into it? Do I fully engage in a 3-dimensional way? Or am I kind of just in my own world? So that's sort of the shape, the category. But this is all the big space. So, and space for me as a Laban person is my jam. Like, I get it. It totally makes sense. I can feel it. It's like, it's very easy for me. And I'm also a very visual person. So I feel like for the people who are really visual and can picture this, it's sometimes easier. But when kinesthetic people can get it into their bodies, the landing can have a very different groundedness And for audio people, you just listen to what I say and then you can go, oh yeah, okay, I got this. But I think that this really creates a great structure for how we look at the world, like being able to embody space. I mean, we're all embodying space, whether we think about it or not. But here's my little story. So sit down or relax in any kind of comfortable position for a second while I tell you the story. So I was working with a couple other movement analysts who had all finished the program, and we were developing this class that was kind of like a fitnessy class using a lot of Bartenieff Fundamentals and Laban. And we were working on just this scale, this basic scale. And I was working with a girl who is a CMA, has worked for the Laban Institute for years, and was going through a divorce. So she would go up, down, cross, open, backwards, and then she'd go somewhere else. So it's like, this is how that lands in our body. Like, she did not want to go forward. She was having a hard time. She knew this scale, like it wasn't any big thing, but because that moving forward in her life was so difficult for her, doing it in the scale was difficult for her. So we can say that the vertical is very much about me. Here I am, I'm showing me. This is my me-ness, right? If I do this gesture, you can see I'm talking about myself. Now this horizontal is very much about we, it's about us, sharing, caring, gathering and scattering. It's information, especially when we get planar, both with both of these. But the sagittal is very much about action and inaction or choice making. Like, well, I really need to back off. And I think that now is a really good time with the pandemic, with the embodiment conference ending, and I'm just reading, different people's threads on how they're feeling and hearing what people are saying. And sometimes it is a time to move backwards, right? To feel the back space, to open up the back as opposed to this. So we're going to play with that a little bit more, but let's get back into moving in space. Before we do, any questions? How's it all landing? Exactly. Thanks.
Yeah, just want to ask. So when we focus on, is it on a plane? Only the ups and downs, just in the vertical line, we rest there, and just in the middle, is it middle level?
And the forward backward. So let me just explain a little bit more. So this is not a plane. If we think of this, obviously our bodies are three-dimensional, so it's not a perfect system that's exactly the same. But if we think of, like, we have the point. We make a line, we have 2 points and the line in the middle. So that's not a plane, it's just a single line, it's vertical. So we think of it like a line, horizontal line, but we're about to move into the planes. So a plane would be two-dimensional. And here's a video, here's a picture of, like, which I don't know if you can see it, my camera's not, there we go. So that the person standing like in the doorway type, that's the vertical. Then there's the sagittal, the forward backward, and then there's a horizontal plane. So we're gonna work with that next. And if we put all the planes together, and it doesn't matter if you know all of this, we'll end up with the icosahedron. So the outer scaffolding of the planes together creates this. So the plane is like a piece of paper, right? It's got, here we go. Here's my piece of paper in the vertical. I've got my up, down, and I have a little bit of side, side. And if we think of the planes as being like a rectangle as opposed to like a square, we'll end up with this shape when they all come together. So here's my horizontal, my vertical plane. If I shift this to the horizontal plane, it's like this. So it's there, and the long part is going side, side, and the shorter part is going forward, back. If I move this into the sagittal plane, it's here. So here for me, there's my sagittal plane, and it's got more front, back. The name of the plane is going to be bigger than the extra part. So this sagittal plane has forward, backward, and it also has up, down. My vertical plane, is up, down as the predominant plane, and a little bit of horizontal, side, side. My horizontal plane is predominantly horizontal with a little bit forward, backward, a little bit of sagittal. Yeah, and there's another picture of the people standing in the planes. Do I have it? Maybe not. Oh, but I do have this picture of the platonic solids. So you can see there's your tetrahedron, your octahedron, cube, and icosahedron, dodecahedron. There's kind of a picture of what the planes look like together. And it's really hard to see, but it's this. So like, it doesn't really show it. All right, Dawn, did you have a question?
Yeah, when we're doing the dimensional
Cross of axis.
axis, is there something we should be thinking about? Like I find myself thinking about the oppositional, should we focus on something in particular? There's lots of things to focus on. But I find myself, I'm focusing on the oppositional energy, like when I'm going.
Yes. So there's the tension of and the counter tension, right? So we can focus on that. So I think it's different for any given person, like where you are with, like maybe you just need to think about just going up to that point, just going down to that point, just crossing to that point. You can think of it in any way. And the more dancerly you are, like we can make them very dancerly. Like it can be, we can put all the stuff, make it into like a real choreography, even just doing the simplest thing. So let's go into the planes. So we're going to start with the vertical plane. So we have our up down. I'm just going to shift this. So we have our up down, which is our vertical dimension. So if we get into the vertical dimension, we put our body into it as much as we can. And then we open, we add a little bit of horizontal. We open up our upper body and our lower body. So it's not a perfect X. It's not quite Da Vinci. It's more like we're in a door frame and we're touching the four corners of our door frame. So we're going to touch high right, high left, low right, low left. We're just delineating where this plane is. High right, high left, low right, low left. And I'm talking about the space, even though it's also my body part moving there, I could talk about the space. Let's just do it with the right hand. So let's go high right, high left, low right, low left. So you see it's the space, high right, crossing over, high left, low right, low left. Let's try that with the other side first. So it's high left, high right, low right, low left, high left, high right, low right, low left. So those are our 4 points of the vertical plane. Door plane, also known as the door plane. So with our horizontal plane, we have our side, and we're going to add a little bit of sagittal forward, backward. So what we say in Laban, like if I was teaching an intro to Laban, I would say the horizontal plane has a primary spatial pull, which is horizontal, and a secondary spatial pull, which is sagittal, forward, backward. So our 4 points, so that makes the rectangle more long than it is front, back. It's not a square, it's a rectangle. And that tells us which our primary pull is, and that's always the name. And it doesn't matter if you remember any of that, unless when you're like gonna study Laban movement analysis, and like that's just theory. But sometimes that's helpful. So let's go just to the 4 points, and we're gonna stay open using both sides of our body. So we're gonna go to right forward middle, left forward middle, right back middle, left back middle, right forward middle, left forward middle, right back middle, left back middle. Yeah, so we're always like, I'm not crossing my body at all for this version right now. Right forward middle. Yeah, so it's gonna come forward. Think of like so I know when you have the different languages also, it's like, oh God, I'm gonna actually do this way so that you can see, and you're gonna just copy me from the back and step where I step. Right forward middle, left forward middle, right back middle, left back middle, right forward middle, left forward middle, right back middle, left back middle, right forward middle, left forward middle, right back middle, left back middle. How's that? Is that making some sense now? Was it helpful for me to turn around? Yeah. So let's work with this. So, and we have different ways of moving through this. So we can also cross and open. So we're going to do a few staying in the horizontal and just feel how different it is. And I'll do it backwards. So I'm going to start with my right hand, and I'm going to go open, right forward middle. I'm going to keep with my right hand and cross to left back middle. Yeah, so I'm going right forward middle, and I'm going to cross to left back middle. And if I wanted to get really dancerly, I could take this out, and I could kick that leg up. But that doesn't, you don't have to. That's just if you want to add to it, if you want to make it bigger. Right forward middle to left back middle. So now I'm moving through the inside of the plane. Let's try the same thing on the other side. And you can do this seated also. So Leslie, feel free to stay seated and just do it from your seated position so you don't get too tired. Other side. So anybody else, if you're tired, if you need to rest more, you can do it seated. Left hand, left forward middle, crossing, right back middle. Left forward middle, cross, right back middle. Left forward middle, right back middle. Last one. Left forward middle, right back middle. So the way I just did it, we were open in the front and crossed in the back. Now we're going to cross in the front and open to the back. So these are just different ways of moving through the planes. And if you were to develop either a somatics practice or like an aerobics practice, like by changing those crosses, you're really shifting the way that the tissue is going to behave inside your body, right? So if everything's always open, nothing's crossing, the front, like when I cross in the front, I open my back. So we want to have this differentiation of tissue where we have very different possibilities of what's going on. Here, my tissue gets to come together, right? I can hug myself and draw it in. Or if I do it this way, now I'm closing the back and opening the front, right? So anytime we cross, or if I cross high, or if I cross low, right? These are things that we want to have access to when we get older. But this backspace also, I think, who was it? I saw somebody's, it was something on the Ecology channel. And it was a guy and his wife who both did sessions. And he was talking about how getting people into this backspace, like for their arms, is something we don't normally do unless we're dancers or people that are working in this idiom. So we're going to change that. So we'll start with our right hand and we're going to cross to left forward middle in the front. Then we're going to open to right back middle. Crossing, left forward middle in the front, opening, right back middle, cross, left forward middle, open, right back middle. And I'm going to add something to this because this is going to really consider how your tissue is. When we cross to the front, we're then going to internally rotate and externally rotate. So you're just going to turn in and out. And you can see when I turn in, my shoulders lifting a little. We have a relationship, collarbone, scapula, humerus, pinky of that relationship. So we're going to cross to the front to left forward middle, and then you're just going to internally rotate and externally rotate. Then you're going to open to the back. It's going to be right back middle, and you're going to internally rotate and externally rotate. Just feeling what that feels like in your tissue. Let's do it one more time. Cross to the front, internally rotate, externally rotate, open to the back, internally rotate, externally rotate, and then just shake it out. And just reflect for 1 second on how the two sides of your body feel, like what feels different. Anyone want to say anything or ask a question or anything like that? Are you noticing anything? Celine?
I'll say something. Oh, go Celine, go Celine.
Celine, then Abby.
The side of my body that had been moving feels, now it feels longer than the other side that hadn't been moving. Actually. Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, and how about you, Abby?
This morning I woke up and I couldn't even stand up. I felt like I dislocated something in my shoulder and I felt it in the intercostal muscles. And just seeing you and going, I know you, and doing this, I can move. I have my whole range back. Still painful, but so much better.
Yeah, I have to say, like what you said, when you seeing this and being like, I know you, like the point of connection that we have is so vital to being in the space together, right? And the point of connection might be something like, oh, I know you know somebody. Or it might be, you tech hosted my session and you were awesome. Like that was one of our first ones and it was like, it worked. Yes. Or like Mia, like I've seen you dance and your video, and then I've seen you in the embodiment conference, like all the different things. And Fabienne, I've seen you and Celine both in the circles. And Angela, you're actually new to me. And so that's exciting because it's like, there's a person I've never seen before. And Don and I are in a dance reading group together. Leslie, I've known for 1,000 years and we've done this work. And Bonnie is new to me, but she worked with Irmgard Bartenieff. So it's like super exciting. And Justine also from the embodiment conference, right? So it's like, we have these little connections and each one is like, oh, that's that magic, right? When we find the magic of what what's exciting? It's exciting to see my friends, my new friends and my old friends, and we get to move together. So let's do it with the left hand and feel how that feels. So we're going to be crossed in the front, and we're going to do the internal, external, and then we're going to be open in the back and internal, external. So left hand crossing to right, forward, middle, internally rotate, externally rotate a couple of times. Maybe breathe with that, and then take it to the back. Internally rotate, externally rotate, internally rotate, externally rotate. Yeah. And when I'm like, so I'm just going to show you from facing you. I'm crossing to what is actually my right. So I'm crossing to right, forward, middle. I'm letting this into my body, right? I'm not trying to just move it here. I'm letting it participate. I can feel it in my spine. I can feel it into my hip. And then in the back, same thing. I'm like, ooh, I'm going to take the juice from that and let it travel through my whole body as opposed to just trying to isolate it. All right, so we've just spent a lot of time with the horizontal and just how that can shift your thinking with your tissue. And also movement hydrates tissue. So anytime we're moving, like, and if we think of our tissue almost like little tiny icosahedral structures that are filled with water and snot, basically the glycoaminoglycans, when we get to move that more, there's more resilience. There's more relationship to gravity because we're not just sticking in one position all the time, but we let that start to shift and that hydrates. Okay, into the sagittal. So sagittal is forward, backward. We're going to add some vertical, some up, down. And this one we're going to do a little bit differently. So I'm going to start with my right hand. And I'm not actually going right side or left side. I'm staying in center. So I'm not going to ever talk about the space right or left. I'm just talking about the body part is my right hand for right now. So I'm going to forward high and then forward low. And then I'm going to go to backward low and backward high. So I'm cycling through the space, forward high, forward low, backward low, and backward high. I could go the other way. Forward high, let's change it. Backward high, backward low, forward low. Forward high, yeah, backward high, backward low, forward low. And so it's kind of like if I'm cycling through this way, it's a throw. If I'm cycling through this way, it's bowling. Just not that it matters, but you can see how your body could use those different things. Now we're going to do it with the left side of our body. So forward high, reaching forward and high, forward low, backward low, backward high, forward high, forward low, backward low, backward high. And I'm going to show you this sideways so you can see what that really would look like. So here's my forward high. It's more forward, more sagittal than it is up. Forward high, here's my forward low, here's my backward low, there's my backward high. Right, I'm making this rectangle, forward high, forward low, backward low, backward high. Then we'll change it, but we'll start forward high to backward low to forward low. Forward high to backward low to forward low. So just to bring this in, a little bit of Bartenieff Fundamentals. So that rotary factor, rotation in the joints, it is a Bartenieff fundamental. It's part of the Bartenieff Fundamentals. It's a principle. And then there's an arm circle, which is basically what we're doing anytime we do this cycling through that plane, and that is a Bartenieff Fundamental. And there is a talk in the embodiment conference that Karen Studd does on the rotary factor. So if you have a chance to see that, it's one of the early ones. It's on the first day on the Dance and Creativity channel. Okay, so questions? Anything to share with the group? I feel like processing is super important, especially when you learn how, if you teach movement and if you talk about movement, it's really helpful. Bonnie.
I just wanted to share that when I studied this work, we started with the icosahedron, and obviously at some point, these geometric shapes were broken down to smaller components, which makes it so much more accessible because you open the joints first before you try to achieve these amazing shapes. So I really appreciated this because I've been doing it the old way a long time. It's much better.
Yeah, and I mean, the movement is much simpler. So when we're in our basic scale, which is also known as the dimensional cross of axes, is that up, down, forward, backward, side, side.
We never learned the cross before we did the icosahedron. So
Well,
it's just so much more basic and wonderful. I just, you said to process, I'm processing that with you.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. It's so interesting. Because so Irmgard Bartenieff is the person who brought the Laban work to the US and started this institute where I studied. Yeah, so actually we've learned all the planes now. And I'm going to teach you a little bit of movement in the icosahedron. So let me just show you how this works again. So if I have these two bottom points and these two top points, so I'm going to go like this. That inside of that is the vertical plane. If I have these two side points, there's 12 points on this thing. These two side points, this is the horizontal plane. Then I have these front back. So I'm going to do it this way so you can see in relationship to my body. These 2 points, front and back, that is the sagittal plane to my body, which would be like this if I'm facing you. So just seeing how that works. So when we move in in the octahedron, it's usually central movement. We're going from the center to the edge. It might be peripheral movement if we went around the edge. But the way that we learned the cube, let me confuse you by saying the wrong terminology. When we learned the octahedron, we did it always with central pathways. They always came out of our center and back to our center, meaning just our torso, not like our prana chi center, but central movement coming from center, coming back to center. In the icosahedron, if I move from one plane to another plane, it's not going to be central movement. I'm not going to go high right, come into center, and then go back low. I'm going to go high right, and I'm going to move through, we call it transverse movement, which actually just means in the language of Laban, it's kind of more shapy and rounded as opposed to these like spoking and arcing central moves or peripheral moves, but these moves that are more fluid. So I'm going to teach you one of the volutes, which is 3 points within the icosahedron, the first 3 points. And it's a 12-point scale because we've got the 12 points. So before it's over, I'll show you what the whole thing looks like. But let's start with high right. It's going to be, so let's put it in your head first. So often I teach body first and then we kind of think head, but let's think about it for 1 second because it might help. So you're going to think just where is your high right point? Where is your back low point? And where is your left forward middle point? So you're going to cross your body for the left because we're going to do this with our right side. So we have our high right point, our back low point, and then crossing the body to left forward middle horizontal point. So in this scale, we always go vertical, sagittal, horizontal. It just works out that way. Yeah. So let's give it a shot. Now that you've thought about it, we're going to have our first point is high right. Then our second point is back low in the sagittal. And then our third point is left forward middle. So we're crossing over. Yeah. Again, high right, back low, left forward middle. High right. I'm gonna do it this way. High right, back low, left forward middle. High right, back low, left forward middle. One more time. High right, back low, left forward middle. So I could say that for me, the best way to not come centrally through those points is from my high right, I let my elbow lead to go into my back low point. So my elbow leads the way, my body kind of gets out of the way and I reach into my back low. Then from my back low to cross my body, I kind of start with my shoulder, reach it around, and I'm gonna step through there. So these are sort of different initiation points of where the movement's gonna come through and how like my body can shape to get around that. And that's gonna have a different effect than doing movement like this, right? So much of working out is not this, unless you're doing belly dance or something where you actually have some real participation with your core. But like in this, we get this chance to do all this shaping with our bodies, which is great for the tissue. All right, so let's do it on the left. So we're gonna go high left, Yeah, and think of it going really out to the side. So we have side and high, high left. There you go. Back low to right forward middle, crossing over, right forward middle. Yes. High left, back low. And my leg is going to come around to the front. My arm's going to come around the front, and I'm going to step across. Yes, that's it. One more time. Wait, high left, back low, right forward middle. I'm going to show this to you from the back. It is there, high left, back low, right forward middle. High left, back low, right forward middle. Last one. High left, back low, right forward middle. Good. So just for the fun of it, I'm going to just show you the whole scale. And I am going to, because I'm not that good, like I have to switch from left to right. I'm going to try and say it so that it is exactly the opposite of what I'm actually doing, but it will be true for you. So I'm going to try that. I think I have to try it with my left side saying I'm right, but I might fuck it up. But that's just what happens. Let me see, I can get my legs in there as well. Okay, so I'm just going to show you one time on this side. So I'm going to start with high left, back low, right forward middle, low left. So I'm going to the down one. This is a counter tension. Back high, left forward middle, low right, forward high, left back middle, high right, forward low, right back middle, high left. So that's the whole thing together. And I think how did it go, Bonnie? Did you do it? Was it familiar? Yeah, thumbs up. So I actually have this stuff. I have these scales on my Vimeo account. And what I'm planning to do is actually upload this video onto YouTube so that you can go through it. But like I do the scales, and sometimes I do the scales with a metronome. And then it's like, what I can do is like, it takes 4 counts to go up, and then I can do 1 count down, 4 counts to cross, 1 count to open. So I can start to add a lot more dynamic to it of speed and timing and how I think. And then as a choreographer, what I would do is have my dancers doing something different. So they would be going 1 count up, 4 counts down, or just shifting it around so we're getting a more complete version of the possibilities. So I want to go on and talk a little bit about effort, but let's just see if there's any questions. Any questions or anything to think about, anything that you're noticing? Dawn.
This is great fun. I wanted to go back to sleep, but this feels much better. It's so rainy here. I was going to crawl back into bed. That's really what I was wanting to do. And I feel great. And I've done a lot of this for many, many years. I did meet Bartenieff in 1980 at this conference, and I studied it in dance movement therapy, and I love it. And I love the way you're teaching it, and I'm learning new things. And I never thought about that rotation thing, which is putting the fundamentals and the space together in ways that I never really got. So it's great. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I think it's all that sense of integration. Like when we're doing the scales, we're doing a ton of weight shift. We're doing head-tail connection. We're doing the rotary factor. We're doing core distal relationship. So all of these things that I'm saying right now are part of Bartenieff Fundamentals. She's got like 9 principles. There's really 6 technical fundamentals, but really there's more like 8 or 10 of them. And the reason that Irmgard called them fundamentals is that she didn't want them to be locked into being exercises. She didn't want them to be locked into there's a right way and a wrong way. Because I think sometimes when there's too much right and wrong, we don't actually feel what we're doing. We start to not have our own experience, but we have the experience of being told what it's supposed to feel like and what it's supposed to look like. And so, I mean, for me, it's very interesting because I love both of those. I love both of those ways of being in the world, like the rigid, this is exactly the right way and there's no other way. And then also, oh, but you know what, if I try it like this, maybe it's different. And in the open flow way where it's like, it is what it is and there's not a right and a wrong. Like, I feel like that's super important for my process. Thanks for that. You don't know how hard it is for me, Fabian, but it might be easier because I actually suck at knowing which is my right and my left. Like I have a hard time because in my body, they don't feel very different. I played soccer and I kicked with both legs. I didn't go, oh, it's my right, it's my left. I was just like, I'm kicking. With my hands, I am right-handed, but I do a lot of things with my left. All right, so let's move a little bit more. What I would love to do is to invite us to just play, maybe as a group, by watching each other move in space and thinking like, oh, without having to name anything, but just seeing where you want to go. And like, so we can stand up or sit down and maybe look at some of the other boxes if you're on gallery view and just like start to wake up, like what, if you're a star and you're spoking out into these, radiating away from center and coming back into center, or radiating out and sweeping through, creating like this peripheral pathway, or finding a point and falling into another point, like just letting yourself play, and then maybe picking a person and see if you can have a dance with them. So you can break all the rules. It doesn't have to be spatial at all. I did want to talk about effort, but we're running out of time, so that will be next time. But yeah, maybe letting ourselves connect with other people on the screen and space at the same time, like the outer space, into our space, around the space. And seeing as you're in your space dance, what are your preferences? What feels really good? Like what place do you want to keep going to? And what place are you like, oh, no, I don't want to go there. Maybe the down low spaces are kind of more challenging depending on age. Maybe the back highs, maybe the crossed spaces. Yeah, and you can do them with different body parts. It doesn't all have to be hands. You can get legs involved. You can get your butt moving. You can get your hips, shoulders, any part. Maybe your elbows want to make movement in space. And it's nice not to have to think about it. Just let your body do whatever feels good. Yeah. But let's come back to this idea that we started off with the heart and the hands, that this expression of heart is going out to our fingertips, out beyond our fingertips, maybe beyond our whole body, maybe head and feet as well. And like, what's happening? What is your heart expression saying? It can keep changing. You can add breath. Yeah, maybe coming in. It's always nice to look in the boxes of other people's rooms, see what's in there. I always feel like a voyeur when I do that. I feel like, oh, I'm sneaking in, looking at them. But you can all see that I'm looking at you. Yeah, so let's just bring it back together. We have our last couple of minutes. If you have something to sit on, sit on. I think I'm gonna go a few minutes over, so if you need to stop and take off, you can just do it and don't feel bad about it. I really appreciate you being here. So what I wanna do is take us back in. So remember when we were thinking in the beginning about that sort of micro movement and fluidity in our spines? And let's just add some sound to it. So Irmgard Bartenieff had a whole thing of sounding. And Emily Conrad does all sorts of sounding, and sound just brings us back into vibration and breath. So I'm still kind of breathing heavily from our dancing. You might be too. So maybe not sounding quite right away, but just letting yourself find your river, your spinal river. So your cerebral spinal fluid is in there. And what that does is it bolsters your brain and your nervous system and provides sort of resilience so you can knock your head around without your brain hitting the edges of your cranium. So as you're moving in that whatever way you're moving, thinking of the cerebral spinal fluid, which is the closest thing to pure water, not salt water in our body. And I heard from Bonnie Gintest, who is an osteopath and a continuum person, that the amount of clear fresh water in our bodies and the amount of salt water is in direct relation to the amount of fresh water and salt water on the planet. So just bearing that in mind. So letting us, like, as we move, we're also in a river. The river cleans itself by knocking against the rocks, by moving, right? So letting ourselves and our cerebrospinal fluid within our body, it filters through about 3 times a day, 3 to 4 times a day. So as we're moving, we're just inviting that fluidity of the cerebrospinal fluid, bolstering our nervous systems, giving us a chance to filter ourselves, filter our pure is such a bad word, but our fresh, clean water inside our bodies. Yeah. Good. So I'm gonna stop recording and let it end at that. And then we can just open up and talk for a minute. There we go. Oops, it didn't stop. Hold on.